But let's change tack by looking at our other topic for discussion today because of our time, where we see that following President Tinubu's redeployments, withdrawing our redeployment of the police from the VIPs and, to the frontline security theaters to confront pressing national threats. Senators have now publicly said the withdrawal of police escorts exposes them to danger, directly tying this to constitutional obligations of the states under Section 14 and 17 to secure lives and property. How compelling do you think the argument is in light of Nigeria's current security landscape, Vikil?
Well, I sympathize with the senators. I agree that nothing should be done to compromise their security. Our nation gave them a job to do, and we have to do our best to back them all the way. Very important personalities, very, very important personalities need protection. So what I see is a desire to implement the president's directive immediately. But there are operational and structural obstacles to immediate implementation of the president's order. This order can't be, it has to be phased. It has to be a phased approach, not simply a knee-jerk approach, because that won't work. I do not see how, for example, foreign investors who come to our country, who have come to our country to do business, will have their security, their policemen withdrawn. Part of the obligation that we have to those people is to protect them, provide security for them, so that they can feel free to move around in the country, so that they can feel that, yes, this is a country where their protection is guaranteed, so that they can feel comfortable to not just do business here, but to expand the scope of their business in our country. So how do you withdraw security from those people? It's just not possible. There are other people too who received documented threats, and for that reason, they approached the police, and the police dutifully provided them with police security. How do you withdraw security from such people when it is documented that they face threats, and because of the threats that they face, they were duly accorded police security? If you withdraw security from those people, you put their lives in danger. That's why I said there are structural, procedural issues that will make it difficult to implement the president's directive immediately. And of course, when the government decided that, it's civil defense that should begin to provide security for VVIPs, are those guys ready? Are they ready now? Who has ascertained their level of preparedness for this new task? Because it's massive. And do we have enough civil defense personnel? I understand that civil defense, they are not even more than 60,000. When you look at the number of people that the police were guiding, and the civil defense easily slot in to replace the policemen. What I can advise, because I do not want to see a situation in which there will be exceptions, will now say, oh, okay, the National Assembly, their own security will not be withdrawn. The moment we start exempting some individuals or group of individuals, that directive is as good as dead on arrival. What needs to be done is, before withdrawing the police men guiding the VIP at the ready to go and replace those policemen that are being removed from providing security for those VVIPs. Some of them are lobbying to replace those policemen. The policemen, some of the policemen that I've spoken to also talked about the bottlenecks that will make this difficult to implement quickly. Because when you are talking about even replacing them with the civil defense, do the civil defense have the equipment to do the job? Many of these policemen complain that when they are sent to the front line to go and work, for months their allowances go unpaid. At least they make good money from these VVIPs in terms of their welfare. The VVIPs take good care of them. Policemen still buy their own kits. In fact, a policeman told me that the last boot that the police supplied him was the one they supplied him when he was leaving police college. And that was in 2003. That was the last time police bought boots for him. So they are displeased that, oh, this policy will further make life difficult for them, because those VIPs and VIPs used to give them good money for providing security states. They could be there for 8 months and the allowances will be paid just twice in 8 months. These are the stories that they tell me. So what is their state of mind? People are not motivated to fight. We want them to go. Many of them won't be ready. Even when they are withdrawn and sent to the front line, many of them won't be ready. They've not been involved in that, doing that kind of work for years. They've been guiding, carrying bags for. Hey, I think the senators are right about the complaint that they have made, because this policy came suddenly. There should have been a proper plan put in place that as soon as you are withdrawing a policeman guiding a VIP, you replace him with the civil defense that the president has said must be the ones guiding them, and you make sure that the civil defense operative is armed. He has his gun, just the way the policeman had his. But
That's
withdrawing them and leaving them in abeyance, leaving them prostrate like that, is tantamount to putting their lives in danger. And many of them could be attacked by political thugs. Anything could happen to them. And if any senator loses his life because he didn't have security to guide him, it's going to cause serious political issues. It will be a very bad PR for the government. Real reputational damage will be done. I think that a time will come when our VIPs and VVIPs won't rely on regular policemen for their security. We must get to that point, because that is what is happening abroad.
That's right.
Boxers, entertainers, big people They hire private security and they are well armed. They don't use the regular police for self-protection. Even during the Gulf War, people that they called military contractors, they were used extensively in prosecuting that war. And domestically, they use those private security people, they well kitted. They use them to provide protection. In our own case, a musician, you will see a musician with more than 10 policemen, mobile policemen. What's the meaning of that? Their counterparts don't go around, their counterparts abroad use private security, well trained, well motivated. We must get to that point. If we work hard on that, then the private security subsector of our national security will even improve rapidly. We'll see more people going there because they know there's a job to be done. There's a job somewhere. Instead of relying on regular policemen, regular soldiers,
Right.
and all that. So this is
Absolutely.
probably what will help us to take that decision, to look at the private security subsector of our security architecture and begin to work on getting them far more useful than they are now and far more engaged in providing security for private individuals
Yeah.
than relying on police and soldiers
Police. Absolutely.
and civil
Um,
defense.
yeah. Brick House Capital says, look, let's stop pretending as if we don't know how Nigeria works. Pay the police privately and they will still give you protection. Even ordinary people like myself hire police escorts when needed. Wow. Uh, police is not real. Toby says police is not the only law enforcement agency. We have civil defense, DSS, and other agencies. Every state needs to start their own state policing. Okay. We also have Thomas Egbele says policemen too are not to be blamed for subjecting themselves to the states to the state of being considered like errand boys. This might have led to the hate or backlash from Nigerians. A reconsideration. Okay, there are more comments. But let me ask this question before I go to other comments. BKO, practically speaking, with insecurity rising, including kidnappings, now legislatively classified as terrorism, how should Nigeria reform its protective security architecture to serve both VIPs and citizens effectively? Even though you've also mentioned the place of private security.
That's basically one of the things that we need to do is what the president has put in motion. Hiring, recruiting of at least 50,000 policemen. We need to recruit no less than that number for the army. And we have to do it consistently. Because right now we have far less security people about that. Private sector, better training, the sort of training that will make them attractive to VIPs and VVIPs. This is what we have seen in other countries. And what the president has done is similar to what was done in India at some point, because their VIPs wanted to be using people who are already designated to work as counter-terrorism officers. And the government said, no, we are withdrawing these guys from you people. You have to use other people because the country needs those counter-terrorism officers tremendously because they've received the best training that is available. So they have to work for the nation, not to work for individuals. We get to a point when people will have faith in those private security individuals.
Since we're having connectivity issues.
And we must also allow them to be armed. State police is more arms. That is the question, the kind of arms available to the terrorists. We have to allow state police officers to bear those arms. Vigilantes who have been thoroughly trained, civilian JTF who have trained them and confront the enemy when the enemy strikes. We need all cadres of security in our country for us to defeat insecurity alone. We need vigilantes, we need state police. We need to police every blade of grass in our country. We need to have serious coverage across the length and breadth of our country.
Yeah, quite getting dark, over your place. But all the same, we can still see your face nonetheless. Let me take some comments as you try to make adjustments. This is Kabiru Lawal saying, "Welcome to reality. Ordinary Nigerians have lived without police escorts for decades. Now they understand our fears." Ngozi Ezeoku says, "This is not funny. Senators are targets by default. If anything, if anything happens, the same government will explain later." Yusuf Abdullahi says, "Police should protect citizens, not just politicians. If redeploying officers saves more lives, I support it." Funke Olatunji says, "So when police were guarding VIPs, insecurity still increased. Now they withdraw them and insecurity is still there. What exactly is the plan?" Esther Williams says, "Government must communicate better. You don't just withdraw protection and say national interest. People deserve clarity." All right, BK, as we coast home, I want you to probably, address the fact that, talking about constitutional context, what legal obligations does the federal government have to protect legislators, and how do these obligations balance against, overall public security needs? Could this issue wind up in the courts at the end of the day? Very quickly.
Well, I believe that the National Assembly will be able to get the executive to do something about their security. And they're already complaining that they see ministers going around with plenty of policemen. And the president is saying, look, any minister who wants to go around with plenty of policemen, should talk to the IG and get permission from his office. More and more people will get permission to keep their policemen. So ultimately, this is a test to see whether this policy will fail, will succeed for the first time, because every IG has always tried to do this. This is the first time we are seeing a direct approach to withdrawing those officers. And the National Assembly leadership is already under pressure from members that they cannot continue like this. Why are they withdrawing our policemen, whereas ministers and even their children and foreigners, the Chinese and other people, they are keeping their own policemen. No? So it is, I believe that the approach to implementing the directive has to change. Don't withdraw policemen unless you have put a civil defense officer who will replace that policeman in place. Otherwise, if you leave them unprotected, unguided, you leave their homes unguided, criminals will seize that opportunity to go after these people. And at the end of the day, the government will be blamed. If anything happens to any of the top senators or other big people, the government will be blamed.
That's right.
And
That's right.
even ministers don't feel comfortable doing their work unless they have security. Governors
Absolutely.
don't feel comfortable doing their work unless they have security. It's an obligation that the government has to protect everyone, every citizen of the country, not just
Yeah.
the downtrodden, including the rich, the big people in the society. They also deserve to be protected. There's a
You're correct.
constitutional
Yeah.
guarantee for that. So the government needs to find the right balance, to ensure that this policy does not create far more problems than it solves.
Absolutely, BKO. That's right. Quite interesting contributions. The Brick House Capital says, if I was the president, I would bring in people like BKO into government because I don't think there is local government that BKO has not visited. He's experienced and extremely smart, so he can help. And he also went on to say, if you disagree with BKO from time to time, you cannot deny his sincerity and love for all Nigerians, irrespective of tribe or religion. His commentary is always fair. We need him in government. Nelson Adifes says the politicians should get security for themselves, not taking the police as their security. Okay, we can go on and on and on, but because of our time, we need to custom because that's our show for today's edition of Issues with Jide. Special thanks to you, Baba Jide Kolade Ototoji, for those insightful analyses as always.
Thank you, Ibrahim. Thank you to our esteemed viewers. God bless you. We'll be back Saturday to do this again with you.
Absolutely. And thanks to our audience for keeping our company on every edition. You can see the program again anytime by subscribing to our YouTube channel, TVC News Nigeria. Click on the subscribe button to get the latest information. You can also follow us on our social media platforms at TVC News NG. I'm also at Ibrahim_Shita. On behalf of the rest of the team, I'm Ibrahim Shita. See you again next edition. Bye for now.